still a janitor? You actually showed up in those filthy gray coveralls?
Her voice sliced through the civilized murmur of the retirement banquet, freezing the room into a sharp silence. At the doorway stood Akira, a small wrapped gift in one hand, still in his work coveralls from that afternoon.
Unbelievable. Did he walk here straight from a garbage site?
I would have at least bought a cheap tie. This is just embarrassing.
Takeshi threw his head back with a barking laugh that echoed off the crystal chandeliers above.
Remember how he always cleaned the classroom alone? Old habits die hard, eh, Akira?
Akira's jaw tightened, the paper of the gift crinkling in his calloused grip, but he said nothing. He stepped into the hall, the gray coveralls marking him an outsider among silks and suits. The night had just begun, and already they had decided who belonged and who did not. Akira walked past tables of former classmates who barely recognized him, toward the head table where the guest of honor sat.
Akira, you came. I'm so happy to see you.
Mrs. Yoriko, I wouldn't have missed this for anything.
He extended the small, plainly wrapped gift with both hands, a gesture of deep respect.
Oh, you didn't have to bring anything. Just seeing you is enough.
From across the room, Rika's voice slithered into the moment, low but sharp enough to carry.
Is she seriously giving him that much attention? Look at him in those rags.
It's probably some handmade junk from a craft fair. Pathetic.
Mrs. Yoriko, oblivious to the poison behind her, pulled Akira into a gentle embrace.
You've always been one of my favorites, Akira. Never forget that.
Akira bowed to Mrs. Yoriko and stepped back, scanning the room for an unoccupied seat. Every table held clusters of former classmates, their conversations halting as he passed.
Just find a corner. Don't make this about you. Tonight is hers.
Everyone, a moment. Let's raise our glasses to those of us who truly made something of ourselves.
To success. To the ones who built empires, not broom closets.
A chorus of laughter and clinking crystal filled the hall, and not a single glass turned toward the back table.
Let them have their moment. I didn't come for this.
A shame not everyone could rise. But I guess some people are just comfortable where they are.
She doesn't know. None of them do. And it doesn't matter.
He sat in silence, a lighthouse of quiet dignity amidst the storm of their arrogance. But beneath that calm surface, a memory stirred decades old, sharp as fresh ink.
Nothing again today. Mom must have forgotten.
Then a soft voice cut through the shame. Mrs. Yoriko knelt beside him.
Looks like my lunch is too much for me today. Will you help me finish it?
She placed the wrapped bundle in his small hands, her kindness a shield against the world.
She didn't make me feel like a charity case. She just saw me.
You're a hard worker, Akira. One day that will take you anywhere you want to go.
Those words had echoed in his ears for 30 years, a quiet engine driving every morning.
I promised myself that day I'd repay her belief, no matter how long it took.
And now, sitting in a room that mocked him, that promise was the only thing that mattered.
Hard work leaves its mark, doesn't it, Akira? Those stains aren't from a sweat-free office job.
The words cut, but his face stayed calm. Only his eyes flicked toward the source.
I just closed a deal worth your yearly salary, janitor. Probably more than you'll see in a lifetime.
Under the table, his fingers curled tight, knuckles white against the coveralls.
Some people peak in elementary school. The rest of us had to actually build careers.
Let them talk. Their words can't touch what I've built.
You hear that? He's too ashamed to even look at us.
But Akira wasn't looking away out of shame. He measured their arrogance against the simple gift he had brought.
Honestly, I'm amazed he even got an invitation. Must have been a clerical error.
Laughter surged around him, but Akira stayed still, a stone in the roaring current. Across the room, Mrs. Yoriko's gaze settled on Akira, her smile fading as she absorbed the scene.
This is wrong. He deserves better than their petty cruelty.
Her eyes moved to Rika and Takeshi, cold and unblinking, a thundercloud of disappointment gathering.
Why is she staring at us like we're the ones out of line?
Who cares? She's just an old woman. But maybe we should tone it down.
Under her steady gaze, The laughter faltered, leaving an awkward silence in its wake. Before the tension could break, the crisp voice of Chairman Tanaka cut through the room.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may have your attention, a night like this calls for special words.
All eyes turned toward the podium, the earlier hostility dissolving into curiosity. As the room refocused, Mrs. Yuriko caught Akira's eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod of encouragement.
Before we proceed, I have a remarkable announcement that will change our school forever.
He unfolded a letter, its official seal catching the light, and the room fell deathly quiet.
An anonymous benefactor has funded a new school wing in Mrs. Yuriko's name, plus full scholarships for 50 underprivileged students for 10 years.
A collective gasp rippled through the hall, followed by a storm of excited whispers.
50 scholarships? That's tens of millions. Who here even has that kind of money?
Must be someone powerful, maybe even a government official or a top CEO.
The chairman held up a newspaper clipping, the headline screaming, "Mystery Donor Transforms School." Heads swiveled, scanning the room for a telltale sign of fortune among their former classmates.
The donor wishes to remain anonymous, but their only condition was that tonight be dedicated to Mrs. Yuriko.
The room erupted into speculation, and somewhere in the shadows, Akira's fingers traced the edge of his gift.
Well, obviously it's someone with real influence, maybe from my firm's charitable foundation.
Don't be naive. A donation this size comes from an empire, not some foundation grant.
The speculation curdled into a contest of ego, each voice louder and more grasping than the last.
I sit on the board of 3 charities. This has my name written all over it.
Please, my division alone generates revenue that could fund a dozen schools.
Around them, other classmates murmured their own improbable, self-serving theories.
They think generosity is a competition. They haven't changed at all.
Who else here even has that capacity? Certainly not the help.
The insult was a dart thrown into silence, but Akira didn't flinch. The truth waited, patient and deep, for its moment to surface.
The donor insisted on complete anonymity, not for modesty, but so the focus remains on the students, not the giver.
The words landed like a stone in still water immediately. Faces shifted from intrigue to impatience.
Underprivileged? So it's charity for the lowest rung. No PR value in that.
Exactly. No one's going to applaud you for handing out scraps. This donor clearly doesn't get business.
The quiet dedication of the gift became a joke to them, an invisible trophy they couldn't claim.
It's probably some guilt-ridden old money trying to buy a clean conscience. How pathetic.
Or a nobody who stumbled into cash but never learned how to leverage it.
Their words grew coarser, yet none looked toward the quiet figure in gray, whose hands had made it all real. The chairman folded the letter, the weight of its promise hanging unanswered in the air. For a moment, the mystery loomed larger than the arrogance that sought to diminish it. In the brief quiet, a darker memory surfaced, one where his own hunger had been the punchline.
They called me worthless, said my hands would never hold anything but a broom.
Then, a gentle weight landed on his shoulder, and the world steadied.
You are more than their laughter, Akira. Promise me you'll remember your own worth.
That day I made a promise. Not to her, but to myself. I'd become someone who could lift others the way she lifted me.
That singular promise had built an empire, brick by brick, out of silence and sweat. Back in the banquet hall, the reflection of his small gift shimmered in the water glass before him.
She doesn't need to know it was me. Just seeing her happy tonight is enough.
He traced the condensation on the glass, a quiet peace settling over him.
Still, I can't understand why the school even invited the janitor. It's a black tie event, not a break room.
Exactly. They should have hired real cleaners, not invited one as a guest. This is an insult to the rest of us.
The jeer slid across the room, meant to wound, but Akira simply lifted his water glass.
Some of us built portfolios, not piles of dust, but I guess you have to start somewhere, preferably elsewhere.
Honestly, if I were him, I'd be too embarrassed to show my face. Some people have no shame.
At the head table, Mrs. Yuriko's hands stilled on her gift. She had heard enough.
How cruel they have become. This is not the class I taught.
Akira caught the flicker of hurt on her face and set his glass down, knuckles pale.
See? Even the teacher's looking uncomfortable. Maybe she finally realizes what a mistake it was.
The air grew thick, a storm gathering in the space between pride and cruelty. Mrs. Yuriko set down her napkin, rose from her chair, and walked directly toward the back table.
What is she doing? She can't be serious.
The room hushed as she stopped before Akira, her lavender kimono a stark contrast to his gray coveralls.
Akira, I didn't get a proper chance to thank you for your gift. It is the most thoughtful thing I've received tonight.
She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, squeezing it with a warmth that silenced every whisper.
She knows. Somehow she knows.
A ripple of confusion passed through the classmates. They exchanged glances of disbelief.
A janitor's gift gets a thank you speech? What's the world coming to?
But under her touch, the mockery died before it could grow, suffocated by an unassailable dignity. For a breath, the only truth in the room was the connection between a teacher and her student. As Mrs. Yuriko returned to her seat, she cradled the small gift against her chest like a cherished secret. Whispers bloomed across the hall. What could a janitor have given that earned such reverence?
It's probably a handmade trinket, a keychain, or a poorly stitched handkerchief. Nothing worth this drama.
She's just being polite because she feels sorry for him. Let's not pretend it's a Fabergé egg.
But Mrs. Yuriko settled into her chair with a private smile, her fingers tracing the paper's edge. A few classmates leaned in, their earlier scorn now seasoned with a pinch of reluctant curiosity.
Mark my words, it's worthless. Some people just don't know their place.
Yet the gift remained in her lap, guarded like a secret too precious to share with their arrogance.
They'll never understand what this truly represents. But he knows, and I know.
The banquet simmered with unspoken questions, but the true answer remained hidden in plain sight. Chairman Tanaka returned to the podium, a handwritten letter now in his grasp.
The benefactor wrote this: I was a boy who ate alone, whose family could not afford a single meal.
The words fell into a sudden silence, the air thick with the weight of an old sorrow.
One teacher noticed. She gave me her own lunch and said I could be anything. Those words became my foundation.
In the shadows at the back, Akira's hand tightened around his glass, a tremor only the table felt. Each sentence echoed his own promise, a mirror that no one in the room recognized.
This donation is not an act of charity. It is a debt repaid to the teacher who saved my life.
The classmates stirred impatiently, their faces blank. This drama held no profit for them. Only Mrs. Yuriko pressed a trembling hand to her heart, a single tear tracing a path down her kimono. The letter was sealed again. The room searched for its author. The answer sat quietly among them. The letter's echo settled over the room. But Mrs. Yuriko's heart had already begun to recognize the handwriting of a promise she had once witnessed.
Those words, boy who ate alone. Could it truly be Akira after all these years?
She saw again not the man in gray, but the boy who had taken her lunch, and then the determined young man he became. Her gaze traveled across the banquet hall, past the silk and the champagne, and landed on a figure in gray coveralls.
She knows. The secret we've both kept, it's no longer just mine to hold.
He met her eyes and gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, a confession without a single spoken word. Tears spilled freely now, and she pressed the small wrapped gift to her chest as if holding the boy he once was.
He kept his promise. Every single word. He made it real.
Around them, the banquet continued its shallow dance, oblivious to the quiet earthquake between teacher and student. The truth now lived in two hearts, patient and ready for its inevitable unveiling.
Wait, what if the janitor himself is the mystery donor? Imagine him scrubbing toilets by day, signing million-dollar checks by night.
Right? And I'm the next prime minister. The guy can't even afford a decent pair of shoes.
A few restless chuckles scattered through their corner, but the joke had already lost its sharpness. A waiter glided by, silently refilling their glasses, the champagne bubbling like unearned satisfaction.
He probably emptied his savings on that little gift. Now he'll be eating instant noodles for a year.
Frankly, I doubt he even knows how to write a check. You need a real job for that.
The cruelty was automatic, unthinking, a reflex honed over decades of mistaking wealth for worth.
Let's be real, if he were anyone important, he wouldn't be sitting in the corner like a forgotten mop.
They laughed again, louder this time, as if volume could drown out the truth settling just beyond their reach. The champagne flowed, and the distance between who they were and who they imagined themselves to be grew with every sip. The room fell silent as Mrs. Yuriko rose, the gift cradled like something sacred.
Everyone, please indulge an old woman. I have a story I must tell.
The laughter from the corner table died instantly, replaced by wary, reluctant silence.
Years ago, I taught a boy with the world's weight on small shoulders.
Her fingers smoothed the gift's paper, as if touching an old memory.
He came to school hungry, but his eyes held a quiet fire.
The room leaned in, unable to look away from the crack in her voice.
I gave him my lunch once and said he could be anything. He made me a promise.
She raised the gift, and the whole history of that promise seemed to rest in her hands.
Tonight, that boy kept his word. The donation is his. You see, that boy never forgot, and he is in this very room tonight.
Her gaze locked onto the back table, where gray coveralls stood out like a worn flag. Akira's eyes widened, and his hands trembled against the tablecloth. Every word she spoke was a hammer against the dam he had built around his secret.
She's really going to say it after all these years.
The room stirred with confusion, necks craning, searching for the mystery alumnus, but none of them looked toward the one figure who had already risen in silent acknowledgement.
He carried the weight of that promise in his hands every single day and asked for nothing.
Akira's trembling stopped. He closed his eyes and let the weight of the moment settle. The secret was no longer his to hold. The truth was about to break free.
Is there a point to this story, Mrs. Yuriko? We're all busy people.
The room bristled at the disrespect, but the old teacher did not flinch.
Let's get back to the important news. Who cares about some hungry kid from decades ago?
Mrs. Yuriko paused, her grip tightening on the gift, a deeper resolve settling into her features.
Oh, but he is the important news. Far more than you realize.
The classmates shifted uncomfortably, sensing the weight behind her words, but unable to grasp it.
Please, don't tell me you're saying the janitor is a big shot. I'll laugh.
A thick silence fell. Mrs. Yuriko lifted the gift once more, and the room held its breath. The truth teetered on her lips, and not even their arrogance could hold it back now.
This story is the truth behind your mystery. The donor sits among us tonight.
Gasps rippled through the hall like a sudden wind, rattling every certainty. Her eyes found Akira, unwavering, and the room's attention followed like a tide.
The boy who made a promise with only empty hands. He kept every word.
Akira lifted his chin, meeting the gaze of the only person who had ever truly seen him. Rika's champagne glass trembled, Takeshi's mouth opened but no sound came. The classmates searched the room, still unable to accept what stared them in the face.
He built no towers, sought no applause, but his gift will echo for generations.
In the stillness, a single tear traced down Akira's cheek, silent and resolute. The mystery was no longer anonymous, yet their eyes refused to see.
He is not wearing a title or a suit. He came in work clothes, because he never forgot where he started.
Her hand lifted toward the back of the room, and every head turned except the ones that should have. Rika scanned the crowd eagerly, her eyes skipping over the gray coveralls as if they were invisible.
It must be one of the executives at the front, someone with real bearing.
Heads swiveled among the tables up front, searching for a ring, a watch, a signal of status.
The measure of a person is not in their attire, but in the promises they keep.
Akira sat still, the gift's reflection in his water glass a quiet beacon only she could see. The whispers grew frantic, but not a single pair of eyes landed on the man in gray. The truth stood in plain sight, yet their arrogance had blinded them completely.
It can't be. There's no way. That's absurd.
Her voice cracked at the edges, a confidence suddenly brittle.
Someone truly important in this room. Please stand up. We don't have all night.
Yes, enough mystery. Show yourself. Or are you ashamed of your own charity?
Names erupted from the crowd, corporate titans and old money heirs, each guess a desperate dart thrown away from the truth.
It must be Chairman Saito. He funded the last renovation.
No, it's the Ito family. They own half the district and love to flaunt their philanthropy.
The guesses grew wilder, a chorus of denial drowning out the silent answer they refused to see.
They would rather invent a stranger than accept the simplest truth.
The room buzzed with important names, but the silence of the gray corner grew heavier with every breath. A single sharp clap from Mrs. Yuriko sliced through the noise, and the room fell instantly mute. With the gift still cradled in her arm, she crossed the room once more, her steps heavy with purpose.
This man, this quiet, unassuming man, he is the one you mocked without cause.
She lifted his calloused hand, and the worn gray coveralls seemed to straighten under her touch.
Every Friday, without fail, he still wears these coveralls himself to inspect the work he built with his own hands.
The name patch on his chest, long ignored, now burned like a hidden emblem of a quiet empire. The silence deepened, thick with the scent of overturned arrogance and unvoiced regret.
He owns no suit, needs no corner office, because he built an empire from a single mop and a promise.
And not one of them, not a single soul who had laughed, had seen it coming. The first sound was the crack of crystal. Rika's champagne flute tilted past saving, golden liquid spilling down her red dress.
No? The janitor? That's impossible.
Takeshi's complexion drained to the color of old snow. His smirk erased, his hands frozen midair.
Every joke, every insult, it was all aimed at the man who could buy us 10 times over.
Silence consumed the banquet hall, thicker than any toast, heavier than any boast. Chairman Tanaka lowered his notes, his bespectacled eyes traveling from the letter to the man in gray coveralls with dawning awe.
The benefactor. It was you, Akira? All this time, the quiet one among us?
Not a single clink of glass dared break that spell. The truth had finally landed, and they were all buried under its weight. In the gray corner, Akira sat still, the center of a storm he had never asked for. And yet, the promise that began with an empty lunchbox now filled every corner of the room. Akira pushed back his chair with a soft scrape, the sound cutting through the petrified silence. He rose slowly, every eye on him. His gaze lingered on Mrs. Yuriko, a silent prayer of gratitude, before turning to the classmates who had ridiculed him all night. The gray coveralls, stained and simple, seemed to straighten under the weight of his quiet authority.
I'm not a janitor.
The words were a door closing on their contempt, final and unanswerable.
I own an industrial cleaning company. 2,000 employees. Half of Tokyo's hospitals trust us.
A tide of shock rippled through the room. Rika's mouth opened, but no sound came. Takeshi's face was stone. They had mocked the man in coveralls, never imagining the empire stitched into every seam. Akira stood alone yet larger than them all, the promise of a forgotten lunchbox now towering over their arrogance.
I still wear these coveralls every Friday, not for show, but to personally inspect the work my teams do.
For a moment, the room saw not a dusty uniform, but the armor of a man who had never forgotten where he came from.
These boots have walked every hospital corridor in Tokyo. I know my people, and they know I won't ask them to do anything I wouldn't do.
The classmates shifted in their seats, the sparkle of their champagne suddenly feeling like cheap glass.
And the gift that was bought with the very first paycheck from my first contract. I've been waiting 30 years to give it to her.
Rika's stained dress seemed to burn against her skin. Takeshi's gold tie clip caught the light, mocking him.
Mrs. Yuriko once told me I could be anything. I just wanted to be the kind of person who could give back what she gave me.
The coveralls were no longer a mark of poverty. They were a throne of humility, and he sat upon it with quiet grace. The weight of their insults now crushed only the ones who had spoken them, but Akira did not gloat. He simply waited, his peace now unbreakable, for whatever came next.
Akira? We didn't know. I'm so sorry. We were so wrong.
Her apology crumbled under its own weight, too small to bridge the chasm of cruelty she had built. Akira raised a hand gently, as if stopping a child from running into traffic.
I didn't come here for your approval, Rika. I don't need it.
His eyes drifted past her to the head table, where Mrs. Yuriko watched with tears streaming.
I came for her. She believed in me when I had nothing but an empty lunchbox and a promise. That belief is worth more than any suit, any title, any fortune you can imagine.
Rika wilted, her designer dress suddenly an armor of shame. Takeshi stared at the floor, unable to meet his gaze. Akira's purpose stood unshakable, but the night was not yet complete. One last tribute remained. Mrs. Yuriko rose from her chair, her lavender kimono trembling with each determined step toward Akira.
Akira?
She wrapped her arms around him, pulling the gray coveralls tight against her silk, decades of love in a single embrace.
I always knew.
Tears streamed down her face, soaking into the worn fabric of his uniform, a baptism of vindication.
You kept your promise. Every single word.
Chairman Tanaka, still at the podium, set down his notes and began to clap, slowly, deliberately. The sound echoed in the stunned silence, a lone tribute that grew as others found their hands joining.
She believed in me, and tonight I made her proud.
But the night's truest tribute was yet to be spoken, held in the heart of the man in gray. Akira lifted his water glass, the simple gesture cutting through the room's lingering tension like a blade of light.
To Mrs. Yuriko, and to every child who ever needed someone to believe in them.
His voice, unwavering, filled the hall like a prayer finally spoken aloud. For a long, frozen moment, not a single glass moved until Rika's hand, trembling, lifted hers. Takeshi followed, his face pale, the gold tie clip now a mark of his shame rather than pride. Around the room, 100 glasses rose, some in respect, some in penance, until the whole hall shimmered with reluctant tribute.
This is enough. This is all I ever wanted.
And above it all, Mrs. Yuriko held the small gift closer, her tears falling onto the paper as the promise of a lunchbox echoed into eternity. Akira set down his water glass and offered his steady arm to Mrs. Yuriko, her steps still trembling with emotion. She leaned on him without hesitation, the way she had once leaned on a desk to give a hungry boy her lunch. At the head table, he eased her into her chair, the gift still cradled in her lap like a sacred relic. Rika and Takeshi looked away, unable to meet his eyes, their champagne glasses now heavy with regret. Others stared blankly, still processing the magnitude of their misjudgment. The clink of cutlery and low murmurs crept back, but the boastful laughter had been silenced for good. Akira remained by her side, a guardian of the promise that had defined his life.
You've given me more than I ever gave you.
You gave me a reason to become who I am. That debt can never be repaid.
And in the quiet that followed, the banquet continued, but nothing about it would ever be the same. At the far corner, Rika and Takeshi hunched together, their heads bowed in a private conference of defeat.
He made fools of us, Takeshi, in front of everyone we've ever tried to impress.
We did that ourselves. He just stood there in those coveralls and let us dig our own graves.
All those jokes, the toast, we practically handed him the victory. He didn't lift a finger.
Their whispered bitterness was the sound of arrogance crumbling, but neither could deny the facts.
2,000 employees, half of Tokyo's hospitals. We called him a janitor.
We're a joke. Everyone in this room will remember tonight and we'll be the punchline.
They sat back, their champagne now a bitter salute to the man they had so gravely underestimated. And though the banquet carried on, their defeat was absolute, a lesson they would never forget. Akira glanced toward the exit, then back to Mrs. Yuriko with a gentle, regretful smile.
Mrs. Yuriko, I should go. There's an early inspection tomorrow, and tonight has given me everything I needed.
Let me walk you to the door. After all these years, I won't let you leave without a proper goodbye.
Together they moved through the hall, her hand resting on his arm, the gift still tucked against her heart.
You kept your promise, Akira. More than I ever dreamed possible.
I just wanted to make you proud. That's been my compass since the day you gave me that lunch.
Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they were pure joy, undiluted by the evening's earlier sorrow.
Then go, with my blessing. And know that you've carried my hopes with you every step of the way.
Akira bowed deeply, one last time, and stepped toward the door, the gray coveralls now a mantle of quiet triumph. Behind him, the banquet hall fell away, a chapter closed, a promise fulfilled. Akira pushed through the veneer of the party and into the cool night, the muffled clatter of the banquet fading behind him. At the entrance, a handful of former classmates gathered in the doorway, their silhouettes stark against the warm light inside.
He's leaving? Just like that?
No one called out. Their faces were a silent gallery of shame and stunned respect. Inside, Rika stared at the champagne glass in her hand, the bubbles long dead. She set the glass down on the white tablecloth, the soft clink a final surrender. Teki stood motionless, the gold tie clip now a heavy brand of his arrogance. Akira walked on, his gray coveralls a quiet banner against the empty street, head high. He did not look back. He did not need to. Outside, the night air was cool and clean, a silent contrast to the banquet's stifled judgment. Akira paused by his truck, one hand on the cold metal, and turned to look back at the banquet hall. Through the window, he could see Mrs. Yuriko still holding his gift, surrounded by the remnants of a humbled crowd. He opened the door and climbed into the familiar cabin, the scent of cleaning supplies a comfort. On the dashboard, a small worn plaque faced him, its words simple. For Mrs. Yuriko, he traced the edge of the plaque with a calloused finger, as if touching the memory itself.
She kept her promise, and now so have I.
He started the engine, and the quiet hum filled the space as he pulled away from a night that had rewritten his story. And somewhere behind, a teacher held a gift that had waited 30 years, still warm in her hands. The night settled softly, as a promise fulfilled drifted upward into the stars. The white van's taillights shrank into the darkness, a quiet retreat from a night heavy with revelation. Inside, Mrs. Yuriko stood by the window, the small wrapped gift still pressed to her heart. A tear traced the path of her smile, not born of sorrow, but a joy so complete it left no room for words. Behind her, the banquet hall was hushed, a tableau of humbled figures lost in their own reflections. The gift, a simple token from a boy who had nothing, now held the weight of a lifetime's gratitude. She did not move, cradling the promise as if it were the child she had once fed. Outside, the stars were brighter than the chandeliers, indifferent to the shifting fortunes of a single evening. But for those who had witnessed the truth, nothing would ever be measured in silk or coveralls again. And as the final chime of the evening faded, the camera lingered on the gift, then gently closed to black.